Hello and welcome to our second episode of Let Them Hear It.
So as you remember, Tom asked you a question last week, which was, what got you through the lockdown? Now, we all gave our separate answers, and I'm going to read a few of your replies. So one of my favourites is from Tim, who commented on one of Dan's posts, I think. It says, playing music and walking through the cliffs, which just sounds absolutely perfect, especially in normal circumstances. If there's no one about, that's amazing. But obviously, it's very relevant during lockdown. There's another one, music related, writing new songs in the hope that we can perform them soon. Hope is something that's going to get a lot of people through. And just, nature. I'm seeing loads of walking, so it's really, really good. And there's one as well that says Zoom quizzes, which I think is a really good idea. And my friends and I, we did a virtual pub on Sunday night, so we'd all get together on your Discord, your Skypes, whatever, and just have a drink or just a couple of snacks and just talk to each other and catch up as we would, and that was really nice for me. Kind of kept in touch.
Yeah, a couple of times I did that with some friends. I find with things like that, they can be quite difficult. If you've got a lot of people, sometimes it can be a bit people
Messy.
talking over each other. Yeah, but they're definitely a fun thing, and I think it's one thing I think lockdown taught people was how to adapt to the things that you would normally do. People not being able to meet up, they find ways of doing it. And I think an awful lot of lockdown was just adapting.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think so too.
I'm going to read out a few more responses because we've got a couple of newborns. So two of my friends, Ellen and Hannah. Ellen said she had a newborn granddaughter. Congratulations. And my friend Hannah had a newborn son. So congratulations on that. Um, I think that's wonderful. That's something that in a time which has not been particularly great for a lot of people, it's nice to have something like that. So that's wonderful.
The babies are all completely oblivious to what's going on. It'd be nice if that was with me.
Yeah.
I'm jealous of the babies
Yeah.
not knowing what's going on at the moment. Normally, I've got no clue what's going on anyway, but
No, well, yeah.
Oh, we have a chocolate response as well.
Okay, of course, yep.
From Rebecca. It says chocolate. She says, no, seriously, CBeebies for the little one. But chocolate was her first thought, so I'm going with that one. And I've got to give a special mention to my sister, Nadine, because I love the way that she's phrased this response. She says, walking, listening to music, and the kids. So I assume listening to music. Yeah, well, I'm assuming
Listening to the kids.
Listening to the kids is is a different
Is that
thing.
is that in order of favoritism as well? So walking's first, listening to music, and then the kids.
Yeah, yeah. And lots of walking of dogs I see as well. And joining art classes online is another one we got.
I think it comprises of walking dogs, babies, nature, and arts.
Yeah. Which
walking
is
babies.
Walking babies, taking the baby for a walk, having a dog. Wait.
It's a newborn dog.
I guess a newborn dog is still a thing.
Oh yeah, I mean yeah. I like taking the baby for a walk. I think that's interesting.
Again, that is kind of a thing. Probably not the way we're picturing it.
No, definitely not. I mean, wouldn't bark at other babies as it goes by, and
no, take a dip in the stream.
Throw a stick for it. There's many different ways you can adapt without knowing them. Yeah, without having proper punctuation or being us free, I suppose.
Okay, so I've just thought of something. As there are so many dog responses to this question, for the next episode, I hope you guys are okay with this. I'm going to ask people to give me their favorite dog related stories. I don't know how that sounds to you, but this can apply to people who are dog owners or who have previously owned dogs or just people that like dogs. Give us your favorite dog related stories. That's what I want to hear for the next episode.
I really like that question.
Yeah, I like it.
I think we'll get some brilliant responses. It's difficult to think of one from the top of my head as someone who isn't a dog owner as such, but I lived with one for some time with my old housemates. I used to like whispering his name, and he wouldn't know where it was coming from. He'd just be like, "Boris," and he'd just be like, "What's going on? What's it? I heard it. Did you hear it?" And he'd kind of get freaked out, and then just sort of, not in a scared way, but in a playful way, and he's then because he was a sprocker, he would just be bolting around the whole house, just wondering what's going on, and generally loving life. Yeah, so winding the dog up, but in a playful way. It's a brief anecdote, but I'm sure you guys have got much more exciting stories than that, and we want to hear the weird, the wild, the wonderful. It can, even if you don't own a dog, it can be that time that the dog approached you and sold you some magic beans, whatever it is. Just tell us your dog stories, believable
Well,
or not.
I haven't had any magic bean stories, but
Not since you sold the family cow.
no. Well, it had to go.
Foot and
Now,
mouth was
Matt,
hard on us all.
now, Matt, you and I are very similar in this, and that we both absolutely go nuts when we see a dog.
Oh yeah.
We've had this before at Cropredy, where we've been on our way to shoot something, where like we've needed to be on time.
Not a dog.
And like a dog has come by, and Matt's gone, "No, I'm going to stop and say hello to this dog." And we're like, "Right, okay, fair enough." Which I do understand, because my walk to work involves going along like a canal side on an embankment where everyone walks their dogs. So on my way to work, I pass 6 or 7 dogs just on this walk, and if I stopped to say hello to every single one, I would be late for work, which is a real problem. I would happily stop and make a fuss of every single one, but I can't do that.
I do remember a time actually at Cropredy now. You say that stroking someone's dog, and I must say I've learned. You must always ask permission to stroke someone's dog. But it approached me and it was very friendly. So I started stroking it and was fussing it, making this big fuss, and kind of got lost in the world with the dog. And then, a few minutes later, the family did sort of turn around and look at me like, "Oh, okay, so this is happening then." I've just been playing with their dog for some time without them noticing. They looked around to check on their dog.
But that's what I mean. That's what causes delays when we're filming at Cropredy. Not technical problems. It's you stroking every dog on the way to filming something.
Yeah.
I remember at Cropredy, I've seen the most bizarre ways to transport them around the field. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
Like, I've seen like people carrying dogs in like these little picnic baskets or boxes, and it's quite cute. And I've even seen a few of them in buggies as well. But
yeah,
on the backs of not on the back. It's not not on the back of a bicycle. It's tandem. They're both pedaling. But like in like a little bicycle trailer thing, I've seen them.
Funnily enough,
I
was talking to someone at work today, and they were saying, they said, "Has anyone seen the person that walks around with their dog in Folkestone with a dummy in its mouth?"
What?
Now, my first response was to go, "Aww."
No.
And everyone looked at me like, "No, that's not cute. That's weird."
It is, yeah.
I was like,
I'm with the majority there. That is really weird. I mean, if it's
maybe
a toy,
it's
fair enough.
Weird.
If it's a toy, fair enough. But if this owner's got some weird, relationship with this dog, like dog, right? Okay, I'm gonna set the record here, and from here on out, no matter what anyone tells you, it's incorrect. because I am right in the fact that any pet is a part of the family, and that is just fact. It's not just a pet, and it's never just a pet.
No.
But if you've got a problem where, I don't know how to word this without upsetting people. While animals are part of the family, they are not your children. You you don't need to dress them up in all these weird things unless it's part of an actual show or I guess you've got a reason. Please don't mistake it for your child. That's not fair.
I can see that. Yeah.
My pet hate is when
Carry on.
Is when people refer to themselves as their dog mum or dog dad. I'm not keen on that either.
I get that.
I mean,
yeah,
that's not your child. I mean, treat them with respect and like your child. Yeah. Again, don't dress them up like a child. That just looks weird, and a poor dog probably doesn't like that.
Yeah, I think that dog's waiting for its. Well, every dog has its day.
Yeah.
Can I tell you something that I find really funny?
Yes.
Dogs that have really ordinary names for some reason.
Like Steve. Dave.
For some reason it just really amuses me.
Quite funny, Dan. Is it Gareth?
Yes, that's right, Gareth. Yeah. The one that I'd love is Keith. I've never met a dog called Keith, but that would just. Can you imagine? Keith.
You'd have to get it used to like the sort of gruff kind of, I don't know, almost Cockney tone. Just Keith when you call it in at night, because there's no other way to call Keith. Really, I think if you're gonna have to say it at volume, it's got to be Keith, like K-E-E-F.
Yeah. Moving on now from quite a happy subject to a subject which, when we first started talking about doing this podcast, this I think was the first thing we talked about in terms of subjects that we were going to cover. And this is something that all of us have struggled with at one time or another. I guess to different levels of severity. And we're going to talk about mental health. Now, when I first told a friend of mine that we were doing a podcast, she said to me, "Oh, what kind of things are you going to be talking about?" And I mentioned mental health, and she said, "Wow, I like that, because the idea of men talking about their feelings is fairly uncommon, really." So I don't know if either of you want to get the ball rolling on this, because I think we've all had very different journeys, I think. And I hate to use that word, but you know what I mean. We've all come at this from a very different place.
Yeah.
And because we're such good friends, we are happy to talk about these kind of things with each other. We're now at a point where we're opening up those parts of ourselves to other people. And that's quite hard. And I guess I should probably say at this point that if anyone listening is especially triggered by any conversations relating to mental health and depression and things like that, I'm just going to give you a trigger warning now. So either you can choose to skip ahead or not listen or whatever. We understand that this is a difficult subject to talk about. So I'm happy for either of you to jump in and say, where did your, I guess, self-discovery in terms of your mental health, where did that really begin for you?
I don't mind starting this off.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I've always struggled with how I felt about myself and felt that I didn't quite fit in. But in terms of getting it recognised as a mental health issue is probably when I started school. And I think maybe for a lot of people, and I'm talking high school here, a lot of people probably can relate to this because you know, it's the time in your life where, I mean, anyone will start looking after themselves a bit more, as in they'll get themselves dressed up. They look at themselves. You're growing up, so to speak. And I think in my case, in terms of mental health, where it started is I thought I wasn't normal. Like anything and everything that happened to me, regardless what it was, had to happen at a certain time. That kind of veered off into paranoia about myself and about what others were thinking of me, and then it just kind of escalated from there. And I'm quite open about it. You know, if someone says, "Oh, what's wrong with you?" I just said, "I'm depressed today," and they say, "Do you want to talk about it?" I'm like, "Yeah." And it does help to talk about it. I think, as you said, Dan, 3 men talking about mental health. I don't, you can be 6'1", 3'9", and still have mental health issues, and it's perfectly normal to feel things and talk about it. And I think, as I said, if you are struggling with mental health, please talk to someone. Talk to your mum, your dad, your friends, and if you're really struggling, go and talk to a doctor, because I did, and it's helped a lot. And I took counselling up, and it's probably the best thing I ever did, because you're speaking to someone that's not related to you in any way, not just necessarily family, but they don't know you, and they're trained to kind of interpret what you say and how to resolve it. So I think that's my bit for now. As the conversation goes on, I'll probably just chip in.
Well, I think you mentioned something in there that was absolutely like a key thing, for anyone struggling with any aspect of mental health, which was to just, when someone asks you, "Are you okay?" It's so easy to just deflect that and go, "Yeah, I'm fine." Put on that fake smile, that brave face. But there's absolutely nothing wrong, and it's encouraged to kind of, as you said, just to echo what you said, seeking out that help. It's the right thing to do, and it can help so many people. And also, you know,
the world's not going to implode if you do it. There's no stigma attached.
Exactly, and no one's going to judge you. And if you do, then if they do, then all you've done is kind of filtered out people that you don't need in your life, and that probably aren't contributing.
The one person that is judging is yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you need to turn that around and turn it into some positive vibes.
And from another perspective, there's nothing wrong with sending a message to a friend, reaching out. If you don't think they're okay, just send them a text. It could just be the thing that gets the conversation going. That is vital. It might not be, but it could be, and that's the thing. And just check in on your friends. See how they are, especially with everything going on at the moment. There's nothing wrong with sending a text, and it doesn't have to say anything, even deep and meaningful. It can just say, "How are you, mate?" Something like that. I think, I don't know. I think that's like I said. That's for now. That's kind of what I have to say on that, really.
Well, yeah, you mentioned this being a difficult time, and I think you're right, in as much as, for me, when I'm struggling, the one thing, or one of the things that helps me pull myself up, is looking forward to, like, oh, I've got this to look forward to, and this and this, and this year has kind of stripped all that away, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because you don't know if the things you're looking forward to are even going to be there. And there's been, a number of things this year that all of us were looking forward to that didn't happen. We haven't even seen each other this year.
Yeah.
And so that is very difficult. Now I'm happy to get quite personal now on this subject. Don't feel that you guys have to follow suit if you're not comfortable getting very personal, but I think for me, there is, I don't know if it is a generational thing or not, or whether it is just something that people our age group are more willing to talk about than people of previous generations. But I noticed when I was sort of hit my 20s that there were more and more people my age talking about depression. And I always kind of heard people talking about it, looking at myself and going, am I depressed? And I would always just kind of brush it off as like, no, I'm probably fine. And weirdly enough, I think the thing that I think started the ball rolling for me in admitting to myself that I had a problem was the first time I saw the Pixar movie Inside Out. I don't know if you're familiar with this film.
I've got it.
It's basically...
I've never seen it.
It's okay. Well, it's basically a film set inside
someone's head,
mind of a teenage girl, and her feelings are caricatures. And Joy is the one that kind of runs the show, and she tries really, really hard to keep sadness out because she doesn't want Riley, who's the human, she doesn't want Riley to be sad ever. She just wants to keep sadness out, keep sadness away. And basically in the end, they all sort of realize that actually she needs sadness. Sadness is like just as important as the rest of them. And it was seeing that for the first time. I've seen a lot of films that I've connected with on an emotional level, but nothing like that. Seeing that for the first time, where it was like, oh, you can be sad, that's allowed, like sadness is fine, that's an okay thing to feel, was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And when it got really bad for me was when I was about 22, 23.
About 2014, 15, wasn't it? I remember
a bit later than that. It was later than that.
So I remember you speaking to me about your mental health during that time.
Yeah.
It could have been 2016, I think.
Sometime around there. Well, something happened. I'm not going to go into detail about this, but let's just say I fell in with a bad group of people.
Yeah.
Now, I think both of you guys know what I'm talking about. Maybe some people listening know what I'm talking about. You probably wouldn't believe me if I told you, if you don't know what it is. You'd probably think, how is that? But trust me. And that was happening, and that affected my mental health more than I was willing to admit at the time. And yeah, I kind of had a weird journey from there because I made the decision to go and see a doctor. And I think I wanted something quite specific from a doctor's visit. I think what I wanted was some kind of clarity. I wanted to be able to go to a doctor, sit down, have the doctor say, yes, you are depressed, like an actual proper diagnosis. And I remember actually what happened was I sat down and talked to the doctor. We talked about various things. She said to me, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set you up so you can go and have counseling. And I remember just before I left the doctor's office, I stood up and I said to her, in your professional opinion, would you say that I have depression? And she basically gave me an answer that was like, oh, at some point in everyone's life they struggle with depression, and at the time I was a bit disappointed. If that makes sense, because I wanted a specific answer.
Yeah, of course.
And she wasn't giving it to me, which is dumb. Like, looking at it now, it's like that's not how it works. But I think I wanted a label to put on it.
I think
the sooner you have a label, the sooner you feel like it's fixable.
Yeah.
Mm.
And off the back of that, I was going to say, you don't have to have a reason to be sad either.
No,
not at
You
all.
know, I think, you could have the best job in the world, best family in the world. You know, you can, you could make a lot of money and all that kind of thing, and you still be sad. And I think people in the past, when I've spoken to people about it, majority of them are like, yeah, I can relate to that. But some other people have said, well, what have you got to be depressed about? And I'm like,
yeah,
I'm thinking,
Yeah, that's never
it
say
absolutely does not work like
and
that.
I didn't say anything, but I was saying, well, one, shut up. What's that got to do with you?
Yeah.
Two, it's, there is no reason.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't,
obviously
doesn't need to be justification.
It can be accelerated by certain things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as you said, and trying to label yourself, I mean, I think that can sometimes make me feel even worse because I'm expecting something out of it and there isn't.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, this is the other thing, because people use the depression label. Depression and anxiety, I feel, are the two labels that people use most often. And I think those are actual illnesses rather than labels. And what I've found is that I've quite often looked at different mental illnesses and looked at the symptoms. And I've pretty much related to at least one symptom from every mental illness, which is probably a bad thing to do, because like everyone knows that like going on the internet and self-diagnosing yourself is like never a good idea. But it's possible that like I have a mental illness and I don't actually know which one that I have, and I think that's something that I struggle with a little bit. But yeah, just to pick up from where I left off. So I actually did have counseling. And this weird thing kind of happened in that I went for my counseling sessions. I think I had about 7 or 8, and I found them really, really helpful. But what was happening at the time was my circumstances were changing, and my life got a little bit better during that time that I was going for counseling. So by the end of it, me and my counselor basically decided between us that like we'd reached a point where like I was okay. And it's difficult for me to say whether that was because of the counseling or because my circumstances changed. So that basically at the time was like, okay, that's the end of my journey. That's the way I saw it. Now that was 2017 that I that was happening. 2018, the following year, I'm not afraid to say that things got bad for me. Without exaggerating too much, I was lucky to make it to the end of the year. And that really should have been the time that I went back to the doctor, but I didn't. And maybe this is the start of some kind of character arc for me. But yeah, when things got really bad for me, I think my life got better again after that. But I think a lot of that carried over. And I think a lot of that is kind of still with me. And that's kind of where I'm at now. I don't know if you guys want to want to pick up on that, where you guys are at.
Oh, I just want to give you a big hug, Dan.
Oh, thank you.
I think, yeah, I kind of resonate with you there as well. I think counselling or talking to someone is probably the best thing you can do.
Yeah, well, maybe that's something that will happen, and maybe that's something that that we will revisit. Maybe that's something that will happen, and in future episodes you'll hear me talk about that. Who knows? Maybe this is the beginning of some kind of character development for me in this podcast.
Yeah, and I think my journey, so to speak, I don't think it's something that's consistent. I think it's something will trigger me, something will happen, like something bad or something doesn't go my way, and I'll feel sad about it. Then I'll think, what was I worried about? But I think, I think understanding why, if you can, especially in terms of anxiety, is a good thing. But I think, as I said, get help if you need it.
Yeah.
I can't stress that enough. You read and you watch all the time, and people that have had mental health issues, they're just normal people, just like us,
Yeah. Well, that was the other thing that happened for me, was when I first decided to like open up about it on social media, and like the amount of people that commented saying, yes, I've been there, was reassuring. And I guess if you're happy to talk about it, the people listening at home to this podcast, and you want to leave us a comment, please do, because this is a discussion that I think needs having. And
I mean, it could be a future episode as well, us carrying this over.
Yeah,
you could send in anything if you want us to talk about it, and we will. It doesn't have to be based on any topic. If it means something to you, we'll talk about it.
Absolutely, yeah.
My experience, I don't want to almost introduction into it, because it was for me. I didn't realize. It was. It's kind of like I don't know how to describe it. A slow motion car crash into anxiety, where all these things are clearly on the road leading up to it, and it's it's getting worse, and I should have hit the brakes, and but you don't see it happening around you. You're in this warm, comfy place for the time being, and there's all these events that are leading up to it that cause this kind of one big thing, and a lot of changes and things happen in your life, and it sort of kind of spirals from there. But that's those. So my experience was just sort of a lot of changes, a lot of big things happening and going on. A lot of moving around and whatnot. But it just kind of stands to prove that there's so many different ways it can come about, it can happen. There doesn't have to be a reason. There doesn't have to be anything, a cause. It can just happen. And as as we've said already so much, it's okay to talk about it. And make the phone call. If you don't feel comfortable making the phone call, ask someone to make it for you. Just reach out, and reach out to your friends as well.
Well said.
Yeah. Amen to that.
Amen.
Thank you.
Well, I think this has been an eye-opening discussion between us three. I don't think we've ever actually talked about it like this before. We've mentioned we've mentioned we've had mental health issues in the past, but we've never actually sat down, so to speak. So well done to all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. So now I'm going to start off with some positive stories, and here's Tom with the first positive story.
So it's nothing massive, but my brother gave me one of his old desks, and I thought, you know what, it's just something really nice. I kind of organised my little office space, and it kind of declutter. Speaking of mental health, it kind of decluttered me mentally. I've got everything in place. It's set up properly, and I know where everything is, and it feels nice to work here instead of in a cramped space. If you try to work off a desk that's tiny, and you're like,
yeah.
So that's my little positive thing. A nice little desk.
To my positive story, actually, I've got a bit of a desk upgrade this week. A couple of extra monitors given to me by my workplace. My positive story is a change within my role. Obviously, I can't go too much into that in a public forum, but it's just having that change again, mental health wise, is a breath of fresh air. I'm learning new things, I'm meeting new people, I'm doing more what I want to do. You know, it can be quite testing, but testing is good. I really like it. But there's a lot, there's just a lot of change, and it's good for me right now. I'm enjoying it. Yeah,
that's awesome. Now I've thought of something, and again, this is just a tiny little thing. But I'm just going to tell you about what is often my favorite part of the day. When I finish work, I've had a long day at work, I go into my local Costa and I get my soy latte, and if I'm lucky, they'll have the cookies on that are vegan, and that's my favorite part of the day, is that.
I want you to elaborate more on your coffee shop experiences, because I know you're a bit of a I don't want to say prankster, but you like to have fun in a certain chain of, yeah, do you know what? Screw it, they can afford it.
Well,
Starbucks.
yeah.
You like to play Starbucks when they write the names on the cup. You can be
well,
who you want to be.
If you follow me on Instagram, which if you're not, you should be, at Fonzaclay. You know what? Follow Let Them Hear It on Instagram while you're at it. Well, I do this thing, and my friend, I'm going to give a shout out to my friend Mark Morgan, because this, I love you, Mark, but this sort of infuriates him, and I'm not sure why. But I like to go into Starbucks and give him a name that isn't my name. It's not that funny.
It is.
They probably don't even. They probably get weird names all day, every day. They can't spell them. They can't spell normal names. So it probably is not. But it's just a fun thing I like to do. I don't know why. It's just a thing I do.
I think you should, next time you go in, you should just not have a name as such, but say, and can I take a name? And you just sort of go, and
that's going to be difficult with a mask on as well, isn't it?
Exactly. It'll be brilliant, and then just see what comes out at the end. Just if they just go, Ryan, did it happen? Yeah, Ryan, yeah. Okay, saw that. Yeah, brilliant. I think you just need to not give them anything to go on and just see what they come up with. Because I've seen it where they've done it where they said Stephen with a PH, and they've started it with a PH, so it says Stephen.
Yeah.
I was reading something. I think it was. I can't remember where I read it, but it's quite a commonplace, people giving fake names. I don't think it's that uncommon.
The bank.
Yeah.
I love doing things like that. Just cheeky little things every now and again. Just absolutely hilarious. I have a funny story actually, and this has just come to my mind, and it genuinely just happened the other day. So someone, a salesperson, knocked at the door, and I didn't know who it was, and we've not long moved in, so I didn't know. I couldn't really see who it was, so I foolishly answered it, and it was getting a bit awkward. I was about to tell him to go away. My cat saved me. I didn't have to be awkward. So I was holding the door kind of half shut, half open. And I explained, I was like, look, the cat can't go out, so I need to talk to you like this. And then Ziggy, my cat, ran out the front anyway. And then so the salesperson stepped back and started walking towards the cat to try and, get her to come back in. But obviously Ziggy, not knowing this person, just kept running away. Now, the way my street works, my cat just ran around the car park by the back of the house, jumped over the garden fence, and then was back at the door, and I shut the door, and the salesperson went away. So, so my cat just kind of like essentially went, "I've got you." Ran out, distracted the person. I shut the door. She ran around the back, came back in the garden, and that's my middle finger to the salespeople, door to door.
The unfortunate thing is you'll probably never have that happen ever again.
No, I know, but I know better now to get a better look at who's knocking at the door.
So, as we do every week, we're going to give you some recommendations now. And Tom, I believe, is going to give us a podcast recommendation.
Yes, I am. And it's not necessarily just a podcast recommendation, it's kind of the network that do it. They're called Parcast. I don't know if you've both heard of it, but they do.
No.
My favourite one at the minute is Conspiracy Theories, and they've just brought out a new series called Conspiracy Theories Music Edition. So, about Kurt Cobain and Paul McCartney and all them kind of things. I really, really, I haven't listened to the music one yet, but I'm really looking forward to listening to them.
Shout out quickly to my friend Tom German. He will absolutely be all over the Paul McCartney one.
Yeah, I like that idea. But yeah, that's my recommendation. And now we have Matt with a TV or film recommendation.
Yeah, so I'm gonna just echo what Tom said with the podcast. We're on episode 2 and we're loving it. But yeah, there are some really brilliant podcasts out there. So just while you're checking out ours, just have a look at it. It can be a really good way to pass the time and just sort of just listen to something new. My TV or film recommendation has got to be. I'm going to start off with my favorite film, and it is, of course, Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
And it's, if you have seen it, you'll know that it's just brilliant. And it's so quotable, and it's got meaning. It's got funny moments. If you haven't seen it, I can't recommend it enough because it is my favorite film. And there's that's all I have to say about that, really. But there's not too much.
Nice.
Thank you. There's not too much that I can really say about it without you watching. But I will say that it is very quotable, and what I'm about to say kind of works better if you have seen it. But I was discussing this. This is kind of two stories in one. Unnamed for legal reasons pizza company. So years ago when I worked there before, we were quoting the shrimp scene where they got shrimp kebab, shrimp cocktail, grilled shrimp salad. We're just labeling loads and loads and loads of shrimp. And then this lady came into the shop and said, "What sort of drinks do you have?" And my manager, without thinking, just went, "Diet Coke, regular Coke, Coke Zero, vanilla Coke, Fanta." And then my colleague and I just looked at each other and just burst out laughing. And we had to explain to the customer why we just started laughing at her. And then more recently, the other night, because my manager's rejoined where I'm currently working at the store, we're talking about that and Forrest Gump. And then I said to him, I thought it'd be funny if I got up to a customer's door with the pizza and just went, "I ate some." But it only work if they've seen it, and obviously I couldn't do that because then there'd be a serious complaint. Gluten problems.
Yeah, I've never seen Forrest Gump.
Maybe now is the time.
Yeah, I mean,
definitely.
It is one of the great classics. It is, and it stood the test of time. And I think it's Tom Hanks at his best, and that is saying something.
I think Tom Hanks is my favourite actor, and I've never seen Forrest Gump, so I should really watch it.
Yeah,
for sure, definitely. It's just one of those brilliant films. It was you, Tom, that told me to watch The Green Mile.
I love that film.
He's brilliant in that, and that in itself. I'm not allowed 2 recommendations, so I'm not going to recommend watching it, which I would if I could, but I'm not going to do that. But it is a brilliant film.
My favourite film.
Yeah. So, I would say that brings the recommendations to an end.
Yeah, which I think brings us to the end of the episode. Thank you so much for listening. If you joined us for this episode and the first episode, we are still learning. There's still some kinks to work out.
Yeah,
we're working on trying to make it sound better. We're working on making it flow a bit better. Hopefully, with time, you'll start to see little improvements here and there. But thank you so much for joining us. My name is Dan Walton.
My name's Tom Lewis.
And my name is Matt Allen.
And this is Let Them Hear It.